Hello and welcome to our next episode of Women and the Relationship with Money. Today I have with me Deepika Bharatia. She has more than 11 years of working across corporates, currently working with strategy team in Accenture. She has completed her engineering from PICT Pune and MBA from IIM Lucknow. Welcome Deepika. I'm glad that you've been able to take out some time and talk to us about your thoughts around what your relationship with money has been, right? So, I remember that, the very first conversation we ever had was you taking charge of, what should we be doing with, your and Ishan, your husband's money, right? So tell me a little bit about your journey with money ever since you started earning.
Yeah. So taking charge is somehow in my nature. So that was like not just about money. I think I do end up taking charge of a lot of things. But yeah, talking about my relationship with money. So I was born in a tier 3 small town to a business family. Very like the mindset was, of course, I think most of the families at that point of time would have been conservative. Resources were limited. It's not like you just go and buy anything you want, right? So having brought up in that environment, somehow I always was a little rational with how I spend money, and at the same time I always wanted to be empowered enough, so it kind of drove me to do something on my own, be independent, because I saw a lot of women in my family who were always dependent financially on their counterparts. Somehow does not resonate well with me. Kind of motivated me that okay, I'm a person of my own. So yeah, I do need to ensure that I'm always financially independent. That was a very, very strong motivation. At the same time, this inherently, I somehow always, I still am conservative when it comes to how you spend money. I plan a lot in advance. So my journey with money has evolved a lot, but few things remain to the core, that yeah, I want to be financially independent at no matter what. No matter how much my husband ends up making, my family ends up making, I need to be financially independent. That's something which drives me a lot. And yeah, I need to plan my money well. I don't want to be very thoughtful on where I spend, but I need to understand how much money is coming in, how much is going out, what are my goals, and how I want to plan, next few years maybe. So yeah, that background, that is always there with me. So I'm always a little cautious when it comes to money, and a little not very ambitious, but yeah, I do want to have my safety net in place when it comes to finance.
So you mentioned that you are from a business family, right? And that's the most interesting part of your profile today that I want to talk about. So, like in most business families, especially in the northern part of India, we see that there's a head of the family who's running the business, and then there are successors who are like getting in and out of the business. And women in the family mostly are homemakers, taking care of the kids, making sure that the house is running well. Two questions. One, what role did women in your family play in financial decisions within the family? And second, what did you see that created that motivation within you कि मुझे ऐसे नहीं बनना है? I mean, it's because why I'm saying this is because even now, business families let alone, there are enough women who still don't, kind of feel that urge to be financially independent themselves. They could reasons could be multifold. They could come from very comfortable financial backgrounds. Maybe from a mindset perspective, the family hasn't really moved on to let the women in the household work, earn, take decisions on their own. So it could be a mix of patriarchy, etc. But like for it something would have happened, or a few things would have happened in your family which would have made you think, यार मुझे financially independent बनना है. I want to be on my own, right? So going back in history, do you recall anything like that?
Yeah, actually, there were a couple of things, and very contradicting, interesting elements, right? One being very fair to your point, a business family, and we talk about like my mom who got married like 40 years ago, right? So I think women didn't think beyond the role that they come with, right, to some extent. And yeah, I saw a similar structure in my family. It was a joint family. So not just my mom, I saw my grandmother, I saw my aunts, everybody kind of following the similar, following the role, not thinking too much about finances, not getting involved. And I don't think it was just from women not getting involved. It's also like we don't see a lot of men in the family also inviting them into those conversations, right? So it was both way, like everybody was just playing their independent role rather than collaborating, discussing, and actually they could have gained a lot from each other's perspective. But somehow those were very distinct and they were not collaborating a lot, which I felt was not something, it worked in its way, but it could have been more constructive, more productive had the parties aligned on financial things, right? Another interesting story is that, and it doesn't come from a fact that because most of these women did not have a very high level of education, they can't contribute. Finance is to some extent basic, common sense, right? You can still apply that. And I can give you a story. My grandmother, like my mom's side, grandmom. So my nana, he passed away. He was very young. He was like 55 or something. And my nani was left with like, there were 8 children. So it was a big family. 4 of them were married off and 4 children were like not married off. Nana was kind of breadwinner of the family. And she actually, to be very honest, like a woman would never discuss finances with her husband, suddenly took charge. She was able to bring family up. She got all the 4 kids married. She did a fantastic job. My mamas and all are doing wonderfully well because she actually helped them incubate their own businesses, their ideas. So yeah, I saw that a woman, when the need arose, she actually delivered. She was actually coming out of her role, trying to think for different solutions, and she was actually able to do a really good job. So it's not like women are not capable or they don't have skill set. It's just that, first of all, they don't themselves feel that there's a need to get involved in the financial matters, and secondly, because there's not too many people inviting them into those conversations, there are too many opportunities. Most of the men are like, okay, stay out of this finance and all, ye sab, hamara kaam hai, sort of thing. I've heard these dialogues, right, while I was like in my family itself. So I like these were 2 contradicting incidents, like where I saw my own family, because like it was a joint family. There was like uncles and my father and all were running the business, and women were not really actively participating, versus my grandmom, like who actually did a great job when there was actually a situation where she had to step up and play a role outside her defined capacity, and she did a great job there. So I think at that point, I realized that okay, it's something you can excel at, and you can. It's not a very difficult thing. It's something you can just start one step at a time, and every woman should do it. I genuinely believe
I think it's a very inspiring story, Deepika, and not similar, but like towards my in-laws side, like my mother-in-law and my husband's grandmom, the maternal grandmom, she the truth is that she was educated only till class 3, and she actually completed her education after having, I think, 2 or maybe 3 kids. And she completed till, I think, I don't know what, BA or something, and then she became a teacher. I'm talking about my husband's grandmother, and she became a teacher, and there was so much of focus on just education and making, women fairly independent in their own ways, that, like my mother-in-law was working, there was so much of focus on, being working and having your own identity and so on. And, I often feel that if not everybody, as humans, it is not about gender, it is about capabilities.
Exactly.
And sometimes there could be a section of women who are extremely capable, but they have come with a box around them thinking yehi meri duty hai, including my own mother. She was a homemaker throughout. She is almost 70 now, and now she feels yaar kuch karna chahiye tha. I didn't do anything, and I was just raising 4 kids, and like because उस समय जब आप 30-40 साल के होते हो, you feel that you're too busy with the house and the responsibilities, but once your kids are settled, married, they are busy in their own life, you suddenly feel there's nothing that you are doing, right? And that's when you feel there is an identity crisis, that what did you do on your own for yourself? And that's where I feel that if we can inculcate ambition in children, I think from there everything stems. When you feel that nahi, mera bhi ek career hona chahiye, meri identity honi chahiye, not just for money, but also for your own, in your eyes, who you are. I think that's where all of this begins from. So, you said that you've gone through this experience of your nani stepping up and doing these things, and yet the women in your business family not, like being involved too much. So again, I come back to that question. So where did your motivation come from? What was your family's views on, you wanting to pursue higher education, work? Because you must be working before you got married as well, right? You've been working for a very long time. So, when you first told your parents that you want to do a job, what was the reaction? And how did they feel about, you wanting to be educated? And how did they, even early in your years, when let's say you were a teenager, just, like writing your examinations, there would be a degree of independence that you would have sought. You might have been opinionated, you might have expressed your views, you might have demanded something. So how did all of that, what's the genesis of all of that?
Okay, yeah. So one thing which was great about my parents, at least my dad, was that he was always very, very focused towards education. So he really wanted me to, at least in the initial few years, he was like, he really motivated me to study, pursue education, with full force. And I was always a very studious bacha, because I always was like the topper of the school and everything. So I loved studying, and I actually full-fledgedly would immerse myself into my books and do my homeworks, participate in all the competitions. Always one of the studious bacha and a good bacha, somebody who's studying, getting good marks, etc. However, I still, again, as I mentioned, I come from business family. Nobody in my family had ever pursued jobs. Okay, everybody, like the standard process is that the sons in the family would go and join the family business, and women would eventually get married off, right? So that was the standard protocol, which was, to be very honest, till my time, I think most of the children were following the similar protocol. In my case, one fortunate thing happened was I had a couple of friends who were equally interested in going and pursuing job outside our city. So we had a good, I would say, peer group who wanted to study, get into good college and move out. I think for engineering is when we wanted to go out of the city. That itself was a big challenge, because not many girls were moving out of their city. I come from a tier 3 town, right? So we wanted to move to Pune to pursue engineering, and because there was a strong peer group, and there were the parents of my friends were also equally inclined to ensure that the girls are doing well, and they were of course girls, and they all wanted to go and pursue engineering. So I think it was a collective effort of our group that we ensured that we go out and we convinced our parents. It required a little bit of convincing. It was not as straightforward as parents coming to us and like go pursue education and all. So engineering was, I think, pretty straightforward, and then I started doing my job. But yeah, it became a challenge when I wanted to do an MBA, because that collides with the ideal age for getting married, right? So
that was supposed to be my next question, by the way.
So yeah, that became a challenging period, because of course my parents wanted me to get married, which was an ideal age, and I wanted to pursue higher education. Again, I was very keen. Like after engineering my job, I didn't make a lot of money, and I was very clear about my financial goals, right? So I wanted to be not just independent, I wanted to have significant amount of money to have a comfortable life, to ensure that whatever my passion and interest are, I'm able to follow them without worrying a lot about money. And I was very sure that my engineering job is not going to take me there, and I wanted to pursue MBA. I'm giving financial side of it, of course. Higher education from a career growth and ambition was a different story. So I was very sure that I wanted to do an MBA, and it required a lot of convincing. Of course, eventually I put my step down that I'm going to pursue MBA. Irrespective of whatever comes through, like my parents are supportive or not, and eventually they of course aligned to this goal. They were sure that she's very, very clear, and I actually put in a lot of effort. I ensured that I'm going to get into one of the top colleges and not just pursue MBA from any other colleges. I'm going to give in my all, and I think that resonated with them, that she's really wanting to make a difference. It's not just she wants to do MBA for the sake of doing it. And that eventually everything turned out well, and I got into IIM Lucknow. So, and very interestingly, my sister was also pursuing MBA at the same time. She got into IIM Ahmedabad. So eventually my parents thought like it was a great decision to turn around and support us.
No, absolutely. So I think, that like the biggest takeaway from this is that, you need to put your foot down. And I think the reason you were able to put your foot down was because you had this intense sense of individuality. that I need to be on my own, and I should be able to sustain myself, not depend. I mean, you come from a business family, so you could have always gone back and like said कि हाँ, like it's a little different, how it operates in business families. But I'm glad to hear that at some point you felt that this is what you want to do. And of course, I mean, once you go into good colleges, your parents would have kind of become your PR agencies, so to say, because tier 3 places, girls going out and coming out from tier 1 A grade colleges is not very, very common, right?
Yeah. And it's actually, to add, it helped a lot because all of my cousins now, they are pursuing something or other. None of them have joined our family business since then. My sisters, they have their own brand, and they're doing really great. They sell clothes online, and they're doing great. Like, they're fashion designers and they're doing a great job. My brothers are CAs. One has opened his own firm. So yeah, I think it was a good turn from the regular track of joining the family.
Right? Yeah, I think sometimes experience builds up your exposure, and in fact all the time, right? And sometimes when you experience something, that's when you realize that ठीक है, ये तो इतनी बुरी चीज नहीं है. Like this is something that can happen. And I often joke about it that like imagine the section of women who are not realizing their potential. If they would, probably हमारे लिए GDP कहीं और ही होती. मतलब like there's so much of caliber just sitting out there doing nothing. Deepika, like when we initially spoke, I remember that you had investments in real estate, you had some stocks, mutual funds. So what was your journey from making money to starting to investing money?
Actually, I was very bad at it, I'll be very honest. And I somehow feel with most women around us, like me. So, of course, now I'm surrounded with a lot of colleagues who are career-oriented, a lot of girls. I hardly come across girls, at least in my circle, who are not working, who are not thinking about a career, right? But every woman I meet, most of them, like 90% of them, are really good at making money. They don't know what to do with their money. And most of them will either give it to their parents or their fathers to manage it for them, their brothers, their husband. And I was one of them, to be very honest. So my first few years, engineering ke baad, I was hardly making much money. I was saving from day one. That was always has been my motto. So I was saving from day one in my engineering job. I was making like really less money. So that money I just used in my MBA days when I was pursuing college for 2 years. It just helped me make, meet some of my expenses, right? But after MBA, first few years was about repaying education loans. So not much of that money I could do anything about investment. And since then, instead of actively thinking about, okay, how do I start investing my money? What is my plan for the money that I'm making? I actually didn't give a lot of thought. And I started giving it back to my father. And I remember talking to a friend once, and because in office you go and you meet your colleagues, and still today, I think this is sad states of affairs, but you see a lot of guys coming together and talking about, okay, this stock, what happened to this stock, where are you investing, this IPO is coming, right? And that is how I somehow got into those conversations, and I was like, okay, let me also put some money here. What are you investing in? Let me put some money here, etc. But again, very half-heartedly, because I'm hearing something and I have some money to put in, and I started doing it. The majority of money was still going to my father. And eventually, one day I think I called my friend and I'm like, what to do with this? Where to invest? What to do? I'm not very sure. She's like, I also started. And I think one of the few friends who I was actually thinking a little advanced from most of the girls around me, is that, I thought about stocks and all, and this is not where I have my expertise. So I've decided I've just put my money in 2-3 good mutual funds, which are like diversified portfolio. That is going to take care of my money. I tried to do a lot of things on my own. It did not work out. So it doesn't make sense. Which felt like a good advice to me. That is where I think I started putting some money into mutual funds. I'm like, okay, even to be very honest, I don't have that expertise. I don't have time to build that expertise. So rather, let's start putting some money into mutual fund. But again, up till now, I was giving a lot of my money to my father himself. And only after getting married, I think I started thinking about, okay, now we're married. Should we start thinking about finances together? How do I take forward the money that I'm making? I was making decently well money by then. And I started thinking a little bit around it. But to be very honest, in retrospect, I think I should have started that journey much sooner. I'm talking about some 7-8 years into my career, I did not actively think about what to do with the money that you're making. You just focus on making money. Still today, I don't see a lot of, and I think, yeah, people start thinking when they start this family planning, somehow this family planning is their entire, I want to make money about my college, children fund, and then you start realizing there are so many other financial goals you have in the first place. You never plan for it.
That's very right.
And it started with me, to be very honest. Like the serious investment, financial planning happened when
you were pregnant when you came to us.
Exactly, right? That is why we're like, okay, we can't do this. And as a couple, we're making good money and we need to start thinking about, and we need some experts. We both are not able to manage it. So I think I was very, very late in the game, very, very late in the game. And there's a huge scope for people to start this journey much sooner. Even before you start making money, you start thinking about what you're going to do with that money and how are you going to invest, how are you going to manage your expenses, how much you're going to save. I do believe I was very late in that journey.
Yeah, that was a very good answer. Yeah, really. So I do remember that you came to us when you were pregnant. So was family planning the trigger point when you felt that you need to go to a professional to just discuss it out?
So what Ishan and I started doing was, we had created a joint account and we decided that we'll just start building some surplus amount. We just put it into the account and then we will do ourselves. We'll start investing ourselves. And somehow we never got to it. And then when I was pregnant is when, me being a very hardcore planner, and I start thinking about a lot of things, future, and I was really worried, like, okay, we have no plans and we have to start thinking about creating a fund for a child, house and everything, right? Like all of the financial goals. Suddenly everything started coming to my mind, and then I somehow at the same time, Ishan came across some of your posts or somewhere he just came across your profile and he's like, okay, Shruti is doing something on this front, and he had heard really great things about you, and from the same batch or college, right? So we always wanted to work with someone who we know about, right? At least not very personal, like not talking about a close friend, but at least you're aware of that person, and having, like, you both were in the same college, that was like a great starting point for us. And then we had our conversation with you. So definitely I would say, like, family planning was a very, very big trigger. That is the point where I was like, okay, now I don't want to like play in the gray area where I'm just like putting some money here or there. I don't even know what is going to happen to this money, how much return I'm getting, what kind of goals I have, what is my end goal, am I even closer to that goal, what is the journey that I need to take to reach there. So that was the biggest trigger.
No. So Ishan is 1 year junior to my batch, I think, if I recall correctly. But tell me something. So both you and Ishan come from similar backgrounds. Both of you are fairly ambitious, right? So how, when you got married, was yours an arranged marriage or a love marriage?
No, it was love marriage.
Love marriage. So when you got married, how did you really got along with deciding who is going to do the expenses? How did that money equation between both of you as working couple start working out?
I don't think it has still worked out, to be very honest. Okay, so the joint account thing which we created was where we thought like, okay, whatever money I can save versus whatever you can save, we put in the joint account. Of course, I was also investing some other places. I continued doing that, but whatever surplus money we both could save, we started putting in this joint account in the hope that somehow we'll figure out on how to go about it, right? But until and unless we started the exercise with you, we were not even clear on how much we are spending every month. That was a eye-opener for us to understand, okay, this is what we are spending in a year, where our majority of the money is going, what kind of surplus we are saving each month and eventually annually, right? So we didn't have that kind of visibility. I always have view of money that I'm making and I'm spending, but as a couple, that visibility only came through after the exercise we did with you.
Right. So Deepika, over the last few years, I've seen that you have built a considerable allocation to equity investments, right? So what made you comfortable with asset class? That's one. Second, how did you, navigate through your understanding of equity as an asset class? Because mostly when I meet people, the reason they haven't started with a mutual fund portfolio, or even let's say working with stocks, is because they feel that they don't understand the risk. It's too risky again. So how did you come to a stage where you felt कि नहीं इससे ही पैसे बढ़ेंगे, this is what we have done? So you don't need to talk about stocks with us, don't need to focus on products, but just generally your exposure to equity.
Yeah, I think I somehow partly answered this previously, right? So again, because I was giving all of my money to my father, and just to give some background there, generally business, and I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but generally you have a very good return when you invest in your own family business or any relative business, right? Because otherwise they will have to take loan from some financial institution, versus getting money from your own family is like good return. And good return, I'm talking about like, okay, somewhere around 15-20%, right? So that is what the whole narrative was. Okay, and then I think Star, so one of the companies that I worked after MBA was Star, and Star is where I had completed my education loan, and I was actually starting to make some money. I started thinking actively on what to do about it, a little bit, not very much, because I was still somehow giving money to my family itself, right? So I started thinking about what to do, and that is where I got exposed to a lot of colleagues, and a lot of these, like I was in a team of, like most of them were guys, so I was like there was just 1 or 2 girls in the team, right? So I've started participating in the discussion, not very actively, but I would at least listen in a lot of information on, okay, this stock has gone up by 40%, this has gone up by 50%, this IPO had very good result in like 2 days, right? So you start hearing this. Of course, there are outliers, but yeah, some people did identify this in advance, and they invested, and they ended up making so much money. And those are the first time I started hearing these numbers, right? Where I've been hearing like 15-20% is very, very good return, and you start hearing this contrasting story, like, okay, people are making very good money. Some stocks which are like not being identified, and somehow you identified these stocks and equity options, and then you can really make good money, right? So it was intriguing a little. At that point, not having any liability, I somehow also felt like, okay, what's to lose, right? I was like in my late 20s. At that point, I didn't think I cared a lot about long term, right? It was like, okay, so risk of equity, of course, everybody is aware of. I was aware of it. Like it is something that was inherently I was aware of, but at the same time, the return kind of excited me. Like, okay, it can end up giving you good return. And also another thing which happened was, like, after Star is COVID. So when COVID hit and the stock market dipped, okay, and I was one of those people. I was like very anxious, and Ishan started saying like, we should invest. This is the great time. Whatever money we have, we should invest. And I started being very skeptical. Like the market had gone down to 25K or something, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, no, this is too much. We should not invest. All the money will go out. And then it started picking up. And at some midpoint, I eventually decided that, okay, we should invest, and we invested, and I made really good return out of it. That is where I learned my lesson. Like, okay, this was once in a lifetime opportunity. And because I didn't listen to Ishan, where I somehow started building more confidence in equity, I still feel I'm a little on the over optimistic side, like where I should diversify a little, not push too much money in equity, but I end up doing it till now. And both Ishan and I, like, I think not very risk averse. We are okay. We are like, okay, let's figure it out. Let's put some money into high risk, high return assets.
So your story is interesting in the sense that your trigger point came from some of these office conversations about 40%, 50% kind of returns, right? And I'm sure you would have invested in some of these tips that your colleagues would have given to you. And when in March 2020 COVID hit and the values of these stocks fell down, what did you do? Did you sell them? Did you book the loss? What did you do?
I remember not having too much money in equity at that point. I did have in mutual funds, which I did not touch because there was no point. I was very clear, like, okay, eventually if it will rise, but it was dropping so significantly, didn't make a lot of sense, right? To take it out. On equity, to be very honest, I had put some money, but not a lot. Again, when I talk about my Star days, majority of my money I was still not investing in this. This was more like experiment and just investing a little bit to have some fun, to explore, okay, what exactly is this entire equity area, right? And just to be part of this conversation and more like a gamification for me, rather than actually making some money out of it. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of money to be so scared of it, but I did sit on it. I did not take it off because it was not a lot of money to be so much worried about, and I didn't see a point. Even now, I think this is one thing which I abide by, is like, there's no point in rushing and just taking out the money when the market is dropping. Somehow it comes back up. I do get worried. I'm not saying I'm not worried, but yeah, if I have to weigh the two options, I would lean towards not going into that stress mode and just taking out your money just because you think the market is going to go down and not come up. Yeah, you'll end up making.
So the perception that I have of you is somebody who knows her stuff, knows why she's doing what she's doing, what allocation is she building, and very clear-cut focus on short-term versus long-term. So tell me that, do you think that you have been able to educate yourself enough to understand why does equity go up and go down? I mean, like, because you said it somehow goes up. So like, does every fall, and let me go back to the 2020 example. So let's say 2020 it went down, you saw the money going down, and then I remember in 6 weeks the markets started turning, right? So when you kind of felt कि ठीक है अब invest करते हैं, somewhere midway up, it could be I think July August होगा, that would be the time. So did you feel कि यार क्या पता वापस चला जाएगा नीचे? This is like gamble, this is like a lottery. I don't know what is happening. Did you feel that? I mean, what made you get that confidence there? Not knowing how equity works.
Yeah, I again, I'm still not an expert, but I think there are few basic principles which I've understood, very basic principles. First is, equity ka going up and down is not related to actual performance in those companies, right? There are, of course, a lot of other geopolitical stuff which is driving it, and this has become even more sensitive. The equity market has become more sensitive recently. With any single thing happening at some point in some country will somehow impact the equity market, right? And these are not they're not a long-term shift. These are more like, okay, some triggers that will, like some very small spikes that will come and go down. Something which I still get worried about, I'm not saying, but somehow I've accepted it. That, okay, it's not a pure reflection of where the world is going, because they're not actually very, very correlated. There is long-term correlation, but short-term changes in equity market is not directly correlated where the world is going. It's getting driven by so many factors. So that is one thing I think somehow I realized. Second thing is, this post-recession, post-COVID dips, and then the market coming back up has given some kind of very small hope that, okay, most of the times the markets do end up coming back. For example, what is happening right now is there are so many geopolitical issues which are, everything is kind of bringing market down one by one. And of course, when we start seeing growth momentum across different areas, we will always again see that same being reflected in the stock market. So I think these couple of things have given me some hope, like, okay, it's fine. There are a lot of, like, the world is kind of running on it. So it's not going to collapse overnight is what, I kind of convinced myself.
So Deepika, tell me that with whatever understanding you have about markets, equity, and even some of these behavioral things about discipline, consistent savings, high savings rate, managing your spending, you are a relatively more informed women within the women fraternity who manages finances relatively better, has financial goals, and would chase certain numbers, right? So how do you spread this learning around you? I mean, do you have friends or colleagues who come back and ask you, "Yaar, aap kya kar rahe ho? What should we do in this market?" How do you really help them understand what exactly should they be doing?
See, again, I'm not one of those people where people come to me to ask for financial guidance, right? This is something which I manage within our family, and we are just driving it on our own. But something which I've actively started doing, and thanks to you, post we've started engaging with you, we got a lot of clarity. That entire exercise we did on understanding our expenses, our goals, I was still very clear, but I saw a drastic impact on Ishan, because Ishan was always driven by, he was not thinking a lot about, okay, what is going in, what is coming out, what are his goals, right? And that exercise helped me understand, okay, these are in fact my goals and I would like to reach those goals. And he started saving very actively. So I think I've started vocally encouraging people in my friend circle, because everybody's at a stage where they have good money coming in, they have some surplus with them, but they don't know what to do, and they keep asking the same questions like, okay, what to do? A lot of girls are still, again, oh God, this I've seen so many times, they still end up giving money to their families, or they just rely on their husbands to take care of it, right? So I think a couple of advices that I've started giving is that, okay, if you are making decent money, hire a financial service team, work with them. People are worried that, okay, they charge a lot, and I'm like money is not doing anything sitting in your bank account at this point of time. So rather let them make some money and give a share to them, right? It's always a better proposition than your money just sitting there and you're not knowing what to do. If you're not doing anything about it, at least go and consider that option. At least you'll understand what exactly where you want to go. You are currently just sitting in a very gray area where you don't even know what your goals are and what is coming in, what is going out, etc. Right? Second thing, I think what I started telling my girlfriends or female friends is that don't just live your finances to any other person, and not just my girlfriend. I think I believe everyone, but somehow men end up taking care of their finances.
That's a conditioning thing.
Girls, that's a conditioning thing, but I see a lot of girls just relying on some other member in their family taking care of their finances. And I just started pointing that, okay, at least be involved in it. And a lot of people are like, okay, I've just given it to my family, even if something happens, it will help them. I'm like, what if the money is, if you lose the money, it's not going to help anyone. So rather own it, ensure that you're making the most of it, and then it can of course come to use whenever you want to use it for any of your family members, right? But yeah, at least be involved, be a co-owner. Even if you and your husband they want to do it together, then be a co-owner in that entire financial management. So that is something I've started watching for, I think, more actively. I do think about how there's a lot of helps and all that we have, and I see that is one segment where these girls are working very hard to make money, and they don't even have bank accounts, right? And they just, that money simply goes to their husbands or family. So I don't know how to solve for it. That is one thing which keeps coming back to me on how to go about it. I keep encouraging them to open bank accounts. It's very difficult with them not having good documents and everything in place. But yeah, that is again another segment where I actively want to make some difference, maybe at scale at some point of time. But yeah, that's another area where I see hardworking girls doing so much work and not knowing where the money is going. And that's
very noble, and I agree that's a segment that nobody really goes into, and they actually don't need to do a lot. They have basic stuff in place which can help them. But I'm glad to know that even though you don't consider yourself an expert in the market, you've been trying to counsel people around you on the behavioral side of how to take action. All right. So, Deepika, I think this has been a great conversation. With your background of coming from a business family, I think this is a problem this is a situation that persists with a lot of women. And I'm sure that this conversation will inspire at least a few of them to start taking baby steps towards involvement, awareness, taking some actions, and also thinking about their own their own identity and their own individuality as well. It does not necessarily mean, I've seen you and Ishan work very well together towards your family goals, and it is not about mera paisa tumhara paisa. So does not necessarily lead to conflict, right? So there can be collaboration as long as you know what you want, what's the outcome, what's the objective. And I think some of the things that you've said totally fuels into how we can work together to move faster towards some of our financial goals. So thank you so much for taking out time and doing this for us.
Thanks to you, Shruti, for having me here. It was a lovely conversation. Actually, I'm more motivated to go back and brush up on few of the basics, and I can leave it further in my understanding of things. But you have being our go-to person for everything finance has made it more difficult. So great to work with you and have this conversation.